You know, those little joys in life that don't cost much but bring you peace. For me, it was my backyard fountain. Nothing fancy, just a small, 3-tier stone fountain I picked up at a garden store clearance sale. It burbled softly. Birds loved it. I loved it. Every evening, I'd sit on my patio with a cup of tea, listening to the gentle trickle of water while the sun dipped behind the trees. Pure serenity. But apparently, serenity is illegal in my neighborhood. I live in a subdivision where the HOA is less about community and more about control. You know the type, measuring grass with rulers, writing angry letters about flower colors, and holding meetings like they're running the Pentagon. I used to think, hey, as long as I follow the basic rules, they'll leave me alone. Oh, how wrong I was. The fountain had been there for 2 weeks before the trouble started. Just 2 weeks of peace and personal happiness before the HOA decided that was too much for one man to enjoy. It was a Saturday morning, and I was weeding the garden when I noticed her, Carol, the HOA president. 60-something, sunglasses on even in the shade, clipboard in hand like she was on a mission from God. She stood at the edge of my yard, lips pursed, staring at the fountain like it had insulted her personally. "Morning," I said with a smile, knowing full well I'd regret engaging. She didn't smile back. "Is that new?" I looked at the fountain and then back at her. "It's a fountain, Carol. For the birds. Peaceful ambience. Good vibes. You should try it sometime." She scribbled something on her clipboard. And that's when I knew. I didn't say anything else. Just watched her stalk off like she had more crimes to investigate. That night, I sat out back again, listening to the soft burble of my offensive fountain. But now I wasn't just listening, I was plotting. 2 days later, I got the letter. "Notice of noncompliance," it said, like I'd built a meth lab instead of a water feature. According to the HOA, my fountain was an unapproved structure that disrupted neighborhood uniformity. Uniformity. Like I was supposed to live in a neighborhood full of copy-paste houses with zero personality. That letter changed everything. It wasn't just about a fountain anymore. It was about control. About principle. About freedom. And I don't know about you, but when someone tries to micromanage my peaceful little corner of the world, I don't just roll over. I told myself I'd go through the proper channels. File an appeal. Make my case. Be reasonable. But here's the truth, I already knew how this game worked. The HOA doesn't listen to reason. They listen to compliance, obedience. They don't want you to be heard, they want you to fall in line. And that realization did something to me. It lit a fire. So I didn't call them. I didn't write a reply. I didn't ask permission. I started thinking. If a tiny fountain made them lose their minds, what would happen if I took it further? If I went bigger? If I leaned into their worst fears and made something they couldn't possibly ignore? That's when the idea hit me, bold, ridiculous, and absolutely glorious. If they didn't like a fountain, I'd build a moat. Yep. A moat. Around my whole property. At first, I laughed at the idea. It sounded insane. But the more I thought about it, the more it made perfect, spiteful sense. They wanted me to remove water from my property? I'd add so much water, it'd make the HOA's head spin. Revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about getting creative. And believe me, I was about to get very creative. But before I go deeper, let me just say this. Backhand index pointy right if you've ever dealt with a petty HOA, or if you're just living for this story already, smash that subscribe button. We've got a long way to go, and trust me, it only gets crazier from here. Because next? I was about to go full-on castle mode, with blueprints, digging equipment, permits, well, kinda, and a moat that'd make medieval kings jealous. But hey, all they had to do was leave my fountain alone. The thing about HOAs is, they never just stop at a warning. Once they've got you on their radar, they act like it's open season. And Carol? She wasn't about to let it go. She wanted to make an example out of me. And I wasn't about to let her win. The day after I got the first letter, I received an email from Carol herself. She'd attached a PDF titled, HOA Exterior Modification Violation, Unauthorized Water Feature. You'd think I built a swimming pool in my driveway. The language was so dramatic, you'd think the fountain was some portal to another dimension. She called it aesthetic pollution. Aesthetic pollution. That's how she described my peaceful little fountain. Like it was spewing radioactive sludge instead of trickling water into a bird bath. I swear, if there was an HOA Olympics for pettiest complaint, Carol would have taken home the gold. And then came the cherry on top. She scheduled a formal inspection. Yeah. An actual inspection for a knee-high decorative fountain that didn't hurt a soul. I don't know what she expected to find. Illegal fish? Unlicensed ducks? The following Saturday, she showed up at my door flanked by 2 other board members like they were the HOA version of the Secret Service. One of them was holding a clipboard. The other had a tape measure. I kid you not. Carol stood in the middle of my front lawn like she owned it. We're here to document the violation. I leaned against the doorframe, coffee in hand, doing my best not to laugh. You know, Carol, you could have just asked me nicely to turn it off. It's not about off, she said, squinting at me over her sunglasses. It's about removal. The HOA board has reviewed the matter. Your fountain doesn't align with the uniform standards of the community. Uniform standards. There it was again. That phrase they love to use when they want to make everyone's life a bland, personality-free wasteland. Is it the sound that bothers you? I asked. Because I can make it quieter. Carol didn't flinch. It's the existence of the fountain that's disruptive. Disruptive. I stared at her, almost impressed by the level of absurdity. This entire neighborhood is supposed to uphold a cohesive aesthetic, she continued. Random installations, especially ones not submitted for approval, erode the harmony of the community. Carol, it's literally just a fountain, I said. It's not like I built a... I stopped. Because the idea hit me again. Harder this time. What if I actually did? I smiled. That alone probably freaked her out more than anything I'd said. Anyway, she said, stepping back. You have 7 days to remove it, or we will impose fines. If not addressed, further actions will be taken. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a formal citation and a breakdown of penalties. Daily fees. Potential lien threats. All over a bird-friendly backyard decoration. I watched them walk away. Their perfect little power trip parade. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about the fountain anymore. This was about control. About pride. Carol wasn't trying to protect the community, she was trying to dominate it. And I wasn't going to be the next casualty in her war on individuality. So I called my cousin. He's a landscaper. Does everything from koi ponds to retaining walls. And when I told him what I was planning, he didn't even blink. A moat? He asked. Yup, I said. With water? Running water, I replied. The whole thing. Circulation system. Decorative stones. Lights. The works. And he just said, bet. By the end of the week, we had sketches, materials, and a list of equipment. I knew I was about to cross a line, but honestly, I was past the point of caring. They wanted war? I was building a fortress. I spent the next few days prepping the yard while complying with the HOA's order to remove the fountain. Oh yeah, I made sure to take it down just before the deadline, so they wouldn't slap me with any fines. That part was important. Gotta play the game before you break it. As I took the fountain apart, I made sure Carol saw me doing it. She walked by that morning with her dog and gave me the most smug little nod. You could practically see her inner monologue going, see? I told you he'd fold. But I wasn't folding. I was loading the cannon. I waited a couple more days. Just long enough to make it seem like the issue had been settled. Like I had admitted defeat. But behind the scenes, my backyard had turned into a construction zone. Dirt piles. Trenches. Pipes. Water pumps. Decorative rocks. Oh, and a permits guy I may or may not have bribed with football tickets to look the other way. Let's just say my HOA isn't the only group that can play dirty. I wasn't just building a water feature, I was constructing an act of rebellion. A bold, beautiful, fully circulating moat that would wrap around my entire front lawn. The plan? Reveal it all at once. No slow build-up. No warnings. Just wake up one day, and boom, moat. But I was keeping it quiet for now. I wanted the surprise to land with full force. So yeah, the fountain was gone. But Carol? She had no idea what was coming next. The thing people don't understand about revenge is that it's not about anger. Not really. It's about precision. And the best revenge? That's the kind that's slow-cooked, calculated, quiet, and then absolutely explosive. So yeah, I took the fountain down. I gave them their win. Let Carol strut around like she was queen of the HOA. But what she didn't know was that by taking away something simple, she woke up something dangerous. Because I wasn't just going to take it down. I was going to build something so ridiculous, so over the top, that the entire neighborhood would talk about it for years. And I wasn't doing it out of spite. Okay, maybe a little out of spite. But mostly, I was doing it because the HOA needed to learn a lesson. If you try to snuff out individuality, you better be ready for what comes next. So, let's talk logistics. First, I mapped out the moat. It wasn't going around my entire property, just enough of the front yard to make a statement. I wanted it to be obnoxiously visible from the street. That way, every neighbor passing by would see exactly what happens when Carol tries to swing her tiny little gavel too hard. My cousin, the landscaper, brought in a mini excavator and a team of guys who thought this was the funniest job they'd ever done. "You seriously building a moat?" one of them asked, trying not to laugh. "Not just a moat," I said. "A statement." We started digging late in the evening, trying to avoid HOA patrol hours. I even set up big "landscaping in progress" signs and orange cones to make it look like a basic garden renovation. Just boring enough to keep nosy neighbors from asking too many questions. Of course, Carol still showed up. She spotted us from the sidewalk, frowning behind her sunglasses like she could smell rebellion. She didn't say anything that first day. Just stared for a solid minute. Scribbled something in her little notebook. And walked away. That was her move. Silent intimidation. Passive-aggressive surveillance. But I didn't blink. Because beneath that crusty topsoil, a glorious water feature was about to be born. We laid down a full underground pipe system for circulation, looping the water from a hidden pump back into the trench. There were filters, waterproof lining, stone borders, and underwater lighting. I went way over budget just to add fog machines that would pump mist out in the mornings like I lived in a castle. Because why not? If I was going to do something petty, I was going all in. By day 4, the trench was complete. We lined it with smooth river stones and filled it with water. It sparkled. It glowed. You could hear it bubbling softly when the pumps kicked on. It was hypnotic. It was beautiful. And it was utterly unnecessary. Which made it perfect. But the best part? There was a single little wooden footbridge across the moat, leading to my front door. Just one. No other way to get in. You had to cross the bridge like a guest at a medieval estate. That was the final nail. I stood there that evening, watching the water circulate under soft, golden lights, sipping the same cup of tea I used to drink by my tiny fountain. The fountain they destroyed. And I smiled. Because they had no idea yet. The reveal happened the next morning. I made sure to time it with peak HOA walk-by hour. You know the time, when Carol and her little clique march around the block like neighborhood security guards. I even added a finishing touch that morning, a custom sign planted near the edge of the moat. It read, "Water feature approved by King of the Castle. P.S. The birds love it." They came around the bend, and stopped. You could hear the gasps. There, in full view of the street, was my castle moat. Shimmering. Flowing. Glorious. The bridge. The mist. The bubbling sound. The sign. The sheer disrespect. Carol looked like she'd seen a ghost. She stormed up to the edge, heels clicking across the sidewalk, and stopped at the bridge. "What is this?" she snapped. I stepped out my front door right on cue, holding my mug, wearing a bathrobe like a smug cartoon villain. "It's my landscaping upgrade," I said cheerfully. "Didn't you say the fountain had to go?" "This isn't a landscaping upgrade," she hissed. This is a moat." I raised my eyebrows. "Oh, you noticed. This is outrageous. It's completely unapproved." "Oh, I didn't need your approval," I said, walking slowly across the bridge toward her. "You see, I found a loophole in the HOA bylaws. Water features in the yard are subject to review. But if they're part of a designated landscape structure for aesthetic or drainage purposes, they're considered functional enhancements." I tapped the bridge with my foot. "And since I added a bridge, it's now a functional transition feature, not a standalone water feature. I ran it past the city inspector. It's legal." Carol's mouth opened and closed like she'd swallowed a bee. "I will be bringing this to the next board meeting," she snapped. "I hope you do," I said. "I'd love to explain it. Oh, and if you'd like to cross the bridge, please remove your shoes. Castle policy." She spun around and stormed off like a villain in an old soap opera. And I just stood there and laughed. Because in one move I took their petty rules and turned them into a punchline. I didn't just follow their guidelines, I weaponized them. And now the moat is the talk of the neighborhood. People walk by just to stare. Kids ride their bikes slower just to look at it. And every single one of them? They're smiling. Because deep down, we're all tired of being told what color our mailbox can be or how tall our grass should grow. We want to feel like our homes are ours. So yeah, I wasn't just going to take it down. I was going to build something legendary. Let me be clear, I never expected things to go this far. All I wanted was to enjoy a little peace and quiet with my fountain. But when the HOA came after that, when Carol came after that, I realized something deep inside me had snapped. Not in a dangerous way. In a motivated way. Because there's something magical about revenge that walks the line between petty and genius. And I was officially living on that line, maybe even tap dancing on it at this point. So yeah, the moat was done. Running water, full circulation system, stone trim, night lights, and even a fog machine that kicked in automatically at sunrise. I had neighbors slowing down in their cars just to gawk. One guy actually clapped. But I knew it wouldn't last long before the HOA fired back. And they did. Hard. 3 days after I unveiled my masterpiece, I got a certified letter taped to my front door, so dramatic, like I was being served in a courtroom drama. Inside was a formal notice of a special emergency board meeting scheduled specifically to address unauthorized structural modifications that compromise community standards. Translation? Carol was freaking out. I showed up to that meeting on time, in person, with a binder of documents, photos, and legal references. If you're going to troll an HOA, you better have receipts. The meeting was held in the community clubhouse, a painfully beige building that smelled like coffee and conformity. Carol sat at the head of the table like a budget dictator, flanked by her loyal minions. I could tell the minute I walked in, they wanted a public takedown. A moment where they could embarrass me in front of the neighborhood. But what they got was a presentation. I fired up a slideshow on the TV mounted to the wall. Slide 1, a photo of the moat at sunset with birds drinking from the edge. Slide 2, a screenshot of the HOA's own bylaws, with the highlighted section on aesthetic landscaping structures. Slide 3, an email from the city inspector stating that no city ordinances had been violated. The silence in that room? It was delicious. Carol cleared her throat. "We believe this is a misuse of community guidelines." "With respect," I interrupted. "You said the fountain didn't fit with the neighborhood aesthetic. So I created something that does. Something functional. Something beautiful. Something that falls completely within the rules. She tried to pivot. This has caused numerous complaints. Really? I asked, flipping to slide 4. It was a collage of printed Facebook posts from the neighborhood group. That moat is epic. Finally, something interesting on our street. Looks like a castle now. Love it. Even one from a parent. My kids beg to walk past that house every day. It's amazing. Carol looked like she wanted to melt into her chair. At that point, one of the other board members, Greg, the soft-spoken one who always voted with her, actually smiled and said, "Honestly, it's kind of cool." The room laughed. Carol's jaw tightened. She banged her little gavel, yes, she had an actual gavel, and said, "This meeting is adjourned pending further review." Which, as we all know, means she lost. But it didn't end there. Because that's when the media found out. Yup. 2 days later, someone posted a video on TikTok of my house at sunrise, fog rolling off the moat, bridge perfectly lit, the little sign that said, "Castle rules apply." The video blew up, hundreds of thousands of views overnight. And then? A local news station showed up. They knocked on my door with a camera crew and said, "Hey, are you the moat guy?" You bet I was. They filmed a segment called "The Homeowner Who Went Medieval on His HOA." And let me tell you, I leaned all the way in. I stood on the bridge for the interview, wearing a hoodie with a cartoon crown on it, and holding a cup of tea like I was royalty. I even said, "Well, if the HOA's gonna play games, I'm gonna build castles." The reporter laughed. The clip went viral. And the next thing I knew, my mailbox was full of letters. Not angry ones, supportive ones. People from other states writing in like, "You're my hero, this is what we all want to do." And, "I subscribed just because of this moat." And hey, if you're watching this and hate HOAs as much as I do, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this channel? This movement? We're just getting started. But back to Carol. You'd think after all this, after losing the board vote, after the news segment, after the public support, she'd back off. Maybe even learn something. Nope. She doubled down. Filed an appeal with the county. Claimed the moat was a public safety hazard. Because someone might trip on the bridge. She even suggested I drain it. For the safety of neighborhood children. At that point, it was laughable. I sent back a letter with a diagram of my property, pointing out my brand new motion-detecting fence lights, warning signs, and low-voltage perimeter rope lighting. I even included a note that said, "If anything, my house is safer now than it was before you banned the fountain." And honestly, I think she realized the war was lost. Because after that, she went silent. For the first time since this whole thing started, I didn't see her pacing the neighborhood. No more notes. No more citations. Just quiet. I think she knew, the harder she pushed, the bigger this story became. And the last thing she wanted was to be remembered as the woman who fought a moat and lost. So now I wake up every morning, sip tea on my bridge, and wave at people walking by. The birds still drink from the moat. The mist still rolls in at dawn. And my mailbox is still full of fan mail. What started as petty revenge turned into something way bigger, a symbol of what happens when you fight back against ridiculous rules with creativity, confidence, and a little bit of crazy. And guess what? It's not over yet. You know how some people say, "Don't poke the bear." Well, the HOA didn't just poke me. They jabbed, prodded, slapped, and then dared me to roar. And now that I had? The whole world was listening. Let me set the scene. After the moat blew up online, I mean seriously blew up, things snowballed faster than I could have imagined. Local news turned into national news. Morning shows started reaching out. A documentary producer even emailed me saying, "This is the most entertaining act of suburban rebellion I've ever seen." I didn't know whether to laugh or sign a Netflix deal. And my little HOA? They were not ready for this level of attention. See, the moment the internet grabbed hold of the story, everything changed. People started digging. Folks from Reddit and TikTok were finding old minutes from HOA meetings, screenshots of complaint forms, even photos of Carol holding up a measuring tape next to someone's mailbox. The woman became a full-on meme. One photo of her, mid-rant with a scowl, got captioned, "When you're late to your dragon-slaying appointment at 3 but still have to ruin fun by noon." It was brutal. But also, I wasn't the one doing it. They had asked for a war, remember? I just wanted a fountain. But now, the internet was fighting for me. My inbox was blowing up. "I hate my HOA too. You're my hero. Subscribed and shared, this is the energy we need in 2025. Build a drawbridge next. Do it." And honestly, that last one? It had me thinking. But we'll get to that. The tipping point, though, came when a YouTube video I posted, a simple walkthrough of the moat and a breakdown of the whole story, hit over 1 million views in less than a week. I titled it, "They Tried to Kill My Fountain, So I Built a Moat Instead." Classic clickbait? Maybe. But the story delivered. And the comments section? Pure gold. People were furious at the HOA. Some were laughing, others inspired. A few folks even posted their own revenge stories in response. It was like I had accidentally started a support group for frustrated homeowners. But here's where things took a turn. One of the comments said, "You should start a movement. Call it Moat Nation or something." And boom, the idea hit me like a water balloon. I bought the domain. Threw together a quick landing page. Put up some merch designs. Hoodies, stickers, mugs, all with little slogans like Moat HOA, Suburban Royalty, Let the Petty Flow. Orders started rolling in within hours. People were tagging me on Instagram standing next to their ponds, their yard gnomes, their deck fountains, all saying the same thing. "This one's for the HOA." It wasn't just about my story anymore. It was about everybody's story. And the HOA? They were melting down. Carol called another emergency meeting, this time to issue a community-wide statement about media misrepresentation. She even tried to claim I had manipulated public opinion with fictionalized content. Fictionalized? Ma'am. I dug a moat. There's literally drone footage. I posted a video reading her statement word for word while sitting on the bridge with a rubber crown on my head. The internet ate it up. And let me tell you, there's no recovering from that. Not when the top comment is, "You either die, Carol, or live long enough to become the Moat King." But deep down, I think what rattled the HOA most wasn't the jokes or the merch or even the press. It was the power shift. They were used to controlling the narrative. Used to residents rolling over, paying fines, staying quiet. But I had flipped the script. And now? I had a full-on audience. Tens of thousands of subscribers. Supporters. People ready to fight back against pointless rules with creativity and confidence. And every time I uploaded a new video, whether it was an update on the HOA saga, a reaction to hate mail episode, or just a goofy pond cleaning vlog, the numbers went up. They built their power on silence and shame. I shattered it with a moat and a mic. And the best part? I wasn't even angry anymore. Don't get me wrong, I still can't stand the way they operate. The petty threats, the obsession with aesthetic harmony, the superiority complex. But I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was leading a movement. And while Carol and the board sulked in their bland clubhouse, we were building something real. Now neighbors wave when they pass. Kids call my house Castle Central. People who never talked to each other before are starting to connect. Because nothing unites a community like a shared enemy and a hero with a sense of humor. And you know what? If you're watching this, if you've ever felt trapped by HOA rules or silenced by bureaucracy or just sick of people telling you what you can and can't do with your own home, then you belong here too. Hit that subscribe button. Join Moat Nation. Be part of something fun, something bold, something that says, "We're not just living here, we're making it ours." Because at the end of the day, this wasn't just about a fountain. It was about freedom. And now, thanks to one little act of revenge, The message is loud and clear. They wanted a fight. Now the whole internet's watching.